This is the NWO Sting Jeff Farmer, and you're listening to Live and In Color with Wolfie D.
Hey, this is Jimmy Street, host of the Live and In Color with Wolfie D podcast. Hear the life and times of professional wrestler Wolfie D. From his time in the territories with PG-13 to his time in WWE, ECW, WCW, TNA, and more. Nothing is off limits and nothing will be held back. Thanks again for tuning in. Here he is, Wolfie D.
Welcome once again to Live and In Color with Wolfie D and my man Jimmy across the street. Jimmy, what's going on?
What up? Not much, man. Just, podcasting in 24/7 mode right now. But it's good,
Why don't
man.
you tell the people your sleep schedule? Like you talk to me sometimes, dear. Like when we do this, it's usually mid-afternoon or something like that. We interview people mid-afternoon, and then you stay up till 6 o'clock in the morning editing not only this show, but Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, your show. I mean, Lord have mercy, dude.
It's an idiot thing I've done, man. I don't know.
It does sound weird. I mean, I'm not gonna lie.
I guess my normal schedule, and it's not all the time 6 a.m. that I go to bed. Sometimes it's 3 a.m.
4.
Or if I, 4 or something. But, it just depends. And then the rest of my day when I get 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Well, yeah. So, I mean, that's like 7 I'm getting. I usually wake up maybe on those days. I usually wake up, get about 6, 7 hours of sleep, jump up.
Yeah. I mean, for our age, 6 or 7 hours, they say is all right.
I think so. I hope you know better than me. I don't know this stuff. Man.
I mean, it just depends, man.
Yeah. Recovery.
It depends. Yeah.
But anyway, what's going on with you, brother?
Oh, so I went to the doctor this morning, and I am, 8 days after surgery, and they said, I went in there with no sling or nothing. They're like, are you supposed to be wearing that sling? I said, I don't know. But it hurt me worse to wear the sling because it was putting pressure on my neck where the degenerative disc is, and it just making my back hurt and my neck hurt and everything. Plus, my arm wasn't hurting that bad. And they did not have to do everything they thought they were going to have to do or could do because the bicep was so degenerated. The outer head was so degenerated they couldn't reattach it. So they didn't do that. And so they basically went in there and just kind of cleaned up everything. So I've got 3 holes in my shoulder that had stitches in it. And she came in there and she goes, well, usually I don't take stitches out this soon, but damn, you've healed up pretty quick. And I'm like, okay. So they took my stitches out this morning after a week after surgery. They took my stitches out, told me I didn't have to wear the sling. I'm back into that brace thing that I bought. It's sore. And I've got to do physical therapy. And now I was top shoulder that if you remember, I've separated it, a grade 2 separation. It's starting to bother me worse than the other one. So I was like, man, just fix both of these so I can have 2 good shoulders, And so we're going to do physical therapy on both shoulders and then go from there. So we'll see. But other big news coming out of my house is I signed a book deal. I know I told you, but to the listeners, and I put it on Facebook, but to the listeners, I signed a book deal with a publisher and an agent. And actually here in just about 2.5 hours, I'm getting the first phone call to start. I mean, like I said, I've already signed the contract, but this is to start talking about what we're going to do. So I've signed a book deal, autobiography. I'm just going to tell it. They're going to write it. And they're talking, it'll be in Barnes and Noble and Amazon and all that shit. And Jimmy, you know me better than anybody, man. I don't count my chickens. What is it? Chickens? Do you count your chickens or your eggs?
You count your chickens pecking or your pecking's chicken?
Don't count my eggs before they're hatched. I just don't believe nothing. And I swear to God, even though I signed a contract, I'm like, okay. But yeah, man, I feel like, they contacted me. I didn't contact them. So anyway, autobiography of Wolfie D will be coming out sometime, probably later this year, maybe early next year. We've got a per contract. It's May 25th. We have to have everything, the manuscript, everything done. All the if I got to send them pictures or tell stories or whatever, that's all got to be done by May 25th, and then they take it from there and publish. So we'll see. what happens.
There you go, bro.
I'm kind of excited about that. That's cool. I mean,
yeah.
If you got a book, I mean, I guess you're kind of cool. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if your book sucks, you're not. But
I think it's all about how many pages your book is, man. And
hey, you know what I told him, Jimmy? I said, go listen, and you can be the person right now to tell me. The agent guy, I said, tell who's ever writing it to go to my podcast and listen to the first, I said 10 or 15. Am I right on that?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Probably 10,
I said, listen
15.
to the first 10 or 15 episodes, and then I'll fill in the blanks after that.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
That's what he said. He said, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of funny, man. Another thing is I messaged the guy. I know I talked about the PG-13 action figures, just kind of, sort of. I'm not allowed to say a lot about that. Per contract again.
Right.
Contract already signed, but they had to drop some people, and we were not one of them. PG-13 will be produced probably later this year. I mean, we'll start the design process somewhere this year, but later this year will be released again, maybe like the book, maybe early next year, something like that. But these are awesome. I'll just say this: the company that's making these. There's a website that ranks like wrestling figures or whatever.
Yeah. 2
of his figures are in the top 3.
And yeah, one of them was number 1, man. So that was cool.
Yes.
That's
friend
huge.
Of mine.
Yeah, that's
a good friend of mine, and he's been on the podcast. So we'll just throw those little hints out there. So
yeah, exactly.
Anyway,
and we really want his former tag team partner on the podcast.
Yeah, that'd be great. He's hilarious, Pat Tanaka. Oh wait,
hold on. Yeah. Anyway, so
I always think out loud.
Yeah. Well, that's smart. Unless you're thinking like dirty thoughts or something, and you're like, "Oh yeah, baby, smack me," like in a crowded elevator or something.
I don't even want those lines. I mean, I look at some of the stuff I did, and like I'm thinking right now, if somebody hit me like that, I'd be like, "Oh my god, please never do that again." But anyway,
yeah, seriously, book and action figure and awesome more surgeries. So that's a big year for you, man.
Well, maybe. Hopefully, I'd like to get this other one fixed. Just so I just want 2 good shoulders, and my hip's good now. And the only other thing is the spine, but I just don't want to messing with my spine. I just really don't want to mess with my spine until it becomes unbearable. But whatever. Yeah. So, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Introduce the guest.
Well, today we have an excellent guest. I'm very excited for this. Of course, this is also another one and yes, we do have other friends, but Captain's Corner, Captain's Nick, and he has brought a guest today that we are very cool. And I mean, honestly, when he was sending me the messages like, hey man, do you want to do this guy or this guy? Well, anyway, this is all based around Glory Days Grapplecon 2. It's the WCW panel. Basically, it's Saturday, March 29th, Residence Inn, Tampa Suncoast Parkway, at North Point Village in Lutz, Florida. That's basically right outside of Tampa, right, Wolfie?
Yeah.
And so it's a WCW spectacular. But the cool thing is, man, we've got NWO Sting Jeff Farmer today.
Yeah. And then he had some other gimmicks. I mean, that's predominantly the best one or the most well known. But I know you're a big fan of his other one.
Yeah, Cobra, man. It was my band. We were big fans of the mid card guys. Like. We would throw money down. I mean, it wasn't much, but it was a little bit.
So it had nothing to do with Stallone's Cobra.
No, nothing. It was more like a paramilitary mercenary kind of guy.
Okay, but I'm saying you didn't like it because of that. You're not a fan of Stallone's Cobra.
Oh my God, I love that movie.
Okay, so maybe that has something to do with it.
Maybe it does, but I always thought that would have made a great Punisher movie. Like, if they put a Punisher shirt on him, he was the Punisher. But anyway, great movie though. But anyway, so we've got NWO Sting Jeff Farmer, dude. He's got some interesting backstory. I think you and I are excited to talk to him, man.
Oh, absolutely. And I've read up on him a little bit, and I can't wait to share what I've uncovered. I know you have too. So I want the listeners stay tuned, make it through the break, and we'll come back and we'll talk about some really cool shit, I swear.
All right, after these messages with NWO Sting.
Hey folks, to get your official Live It in Color with Wolfie D merchandise, go to ProWrestlingTees.com/Live Wolfie D. Check it out.
If you're listening to Live and in Color with Wolfie D on Apple Podcast and like what you're hearing, go ahead and leave a 5-star rating. And while you're at it, write a review. Tell us what you liked. Tell us what you'd like to hear in the future. It's very important to us and always appreciated. Thanks again.
All right, guys, we're back. And as always, I know you hung around, you stuck out the break, listened to the cool commercials, and we are ready for this interview with, this is a pretty cool one, Jimmy. Another one of those people that, I never crossed paths with, probably missed by, I don't know, a year or two, man, because it was NWO, and NWO was ending about the time I came to WCW. Oh, hell, WCW was ending by the time I came there. But so anyway, this is another one that I didn't cross paths with, but our man, Captain Nick, hooked us up with this one because he's doing another convention down in Florida, and this is going to be one of the guests there. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to Jeff Farmer. You might not know him by that name, but he is NWO Sting. What's going on, Jeff?
Not too much. How are you guys?
Doing great, man. Glad to have you on the show, man. So, Jimmy, real quick, before we get to talking to Jeff, tell the folks about the convention that's coming up in Lutz, Florida.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this, of course, to hear about Glory Days Grapplecon 2 with Captain's Corner and our buddy Captain Corner Nick. It's Saturday, March 29th in Lutz, Florida, and it's Residence Inn Tampa Suncoast Parkway at North Point Village. Man, it's going to be like, basically what it is it's the WCW, and it's a WCW reunion, and it's going to have Arn Anderson, Colonel Robert Parker, Bunkhouse Buck, our buddy Jimmy Golden, Haku, our buddy Jeff Farmer here, NWO Sting. It's going to have, so many other guys, Nikita Koloff, Glacier, Dutch Mantell, your old buddy Wolfie, remember?
Yeah.
And then, of course, Dave Penzer, so many great names. It's the WCW Squares, a special WCW panel. Anyway, Saturday, March 29th. Don't miss it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Jeff? That's going to be a pretty fun time for you, I assume.
Yeah, it's funny because I actually broke in not in Lutz, but not far from Lutz, in Tampa with Steve Kern. He had a school in Tampa over off Tyson Drive where the Nasty Boys trained there, and it was Jimmy Backlund, Ron Slinker, Sonny Beach was there. There was a host of guys that were at that school at the time. And it was basically, that's where we broke in, was with Steve Kern in Tampa.
Yeah, I saw that looking up some of your bio. I noticed that Steve trained you. That's pretty awesome because, coming up as a Memphis kid, watching Memphis wrestling, the Fabulous Ones were awesome, man. They were over like Rover. So I always was a big fan of Steve's. I wasn't a fan of Skinner. I told him that, but I was a fan of the Fabulous Ones. Tell me about training with Steve, man. How did that go?
It was great. I came out of a football background. I was a linebacker at University of Central Florida. And
you look like a linebacker. Yeah.
well, and I had aspirations. I thought I was maybe going to get in the NFL, but that didn't work out. Yeah. And so I was a personal trainer at a Gold's Gym with my good friend Clark Haynes, who was Thunder of Thunder and Lightning. And it was his idea. He said, hey, do you want to get in this pro wrestling stuff? And I said, sure. So we went down we had a friend that was wrestling. And actually, Scott Hall was in Orlando. We were in Orlando at the time, and he was at Orange Avenue Gym. And I knew him a little bit, but not really well. But, we were told to go to this school in Tampa, Florida, where Steve was. And we went down there, and I'm telling you, I did the power plant back in the heyday, but some of this, in the beginning school with Kern was brutal. We would go down once a week, and we would come back, and our ankles were swollen from, flopping around. And all we did for the first, I don't know how many months was take bumps. So, it was brutal at first, but then, we learned the craft once to be in reality, I think, and I don't know if Steve would admit this, I think what they did a lot of times, we were some big kind of muscled up guys, and they're just kind of like, let's take their money and run these guys off, basically. But they didn't know that that was like the last bit of money we had. And also we were pretty determined. So, after a certain point, they said, hey, I guess we got to really train these guys because they're not going anywhere.
They're not leaving. So when you said that he came to, or I forgot who you said that was, that said, hey, are you interested in wrestling?
Were you like a wrestling fan growing up?
Not really. I mean, really? I remember watching, Florida Championship Wrestling. I grew up in Florida, so I remember watching that with Gordon Soley. I think he was the announcer. And, of course, Dusty Rhodes, And I remember, I was it's weird. I was out of the Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of fan group, right? Like bodybuilding.
Yeah.
But I remember Tony Atlas, seeing him on TV,
right.
And you saw some of these guys like that. I didn't care that he couldn't wrestle or, knew a headlock from a padlock, whatever. I was just watching his physique going, man, that dude is impressive. So some of that interested me early on, just seeing some of the physiques that were in the wrestling business and seeing those guys, because I was kind of, like I said, from a kind of bodybuilding background. Actually, Clark and I both competed as bodybuilders as teenagers, and that's how we met.
Right.
And we teamed up as a tag team, but, it's just kind of serendipitous on how we got together. But, yeah, I wasn't really necessarily a big fan, but I admired it.
Yeah. And yeah, Tony Atlas was definitely one of the guys that you looked at and went, wow, man. And then to think now, man, if you know his deal is, he loves feet and he's got a foot fetish, particularly with the shoes on, which makes it even weirder, man. And I've seen it in person live. I've seen it. So, yeah, that's a funny one there.
Makes me laugh.
It made me laugh too. So, man,
what's the purpose of the shoes on?
I don't know. That's what I can't figure out. I'm like, that's kind of gross.
The point is, maybe he's got a shoe fetish, not a foot fetish.
Yeah, but it's women's feet. But they most every time have their shoes on when he's doing this. He wants his face, like he lets him step on his face. Yeah, he kisses him. Yeah, but mostly it's like stepping on his face and stuff. Yeah, it's kind of it's strange.
Oh, God bless him. God bless him.
True story. Look it up. So, I want to go for a minute, man, if you don't mind. I read something else that's pretty. You grew up in a family that was very eccentric and very successful and very smart. So you had a family of 8, and your dad turned a school bus into a mobile home, and y'all lived like kind of on the water and kind of all this kind of stuff. Yeah. And your brother, his name was Paul. Am I correct?
Yep.
Doctor.
Yep. Paul. So your brother Paul was a humanitarian, an incredibly smart, doctor, all this kind of stuff, man. Yep. I'd like to hear a little bit about that. That's very interesting.
The man who would cure the world, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah. No, my brother actually, he passed away. It's coming up on 3 years in February. Actually, tragically,
Sorry about that. Yeah.
No, it's okay. But he was my hero, really, and a big, mentor. And we were really close, all my family. And I think part of that was because we grew up really rough. My father was a teacher and a coach. And so, when you have that kind of teaching salary and you have 6 mouths to feed, plus your spouse, it was 8 of us all together. It was hard conditions. So, but we were pushed, academically because he was a teacher, and we had a lot of love, growing up, and a lot of parenting, so it was rough, but it really made us, I think all my siblings, are incredible. And I think that's really what molded us into doing that. I never thought I would get into professional wrestling. It's not something I ever dreamed of doing. I ended up doing it, and it's been a great part of my life. But, the early years were definitely, a big part of molding, the farmers.
Yeah, that's wild though. When I read that though, the kind of how you lived and then who your brother was. I mean, not obviously, and I don't mean this derogatory. I never had heard of him, but once I started reading everything, I was like, geez, man, this dude is like into everything in some very high positions, man.
Yeah, no, he was a Harvard. We knew early on, he was smarter than all of us. He got a full scholarship to Duke, and then he went to Harvard Medical School on a full ride. I mean, he got a Genius Award. I mean, he was, and the funny thing is he's the nerd and I was the jock. Yeah. And hey, Mom, he's got his light on. He was reading under the covers, I'm busting him when he's pissed at me because I'm ratting him out. But that was we became very close. So it's we had a great relationship for a long time.
Yeah, that's cool. And if the listeners want to read up on that, if you go to Wikipedia and look up Jeff, and then there's a link to his brother Paul, if you want to read up on some of that, and also read up on some more stuff about Jeff if we don't cover it.
Yeah, there's a book called Mountains Beyond Mountains, which Tracy Kidder's the author. He wrote about my brother.
Oh, yeah.
That's a fantastic book if anybody's interested in reading that. And then they made a movie on him called Bending the Arc.
Oh, wow.
I saw that. Yeah.
On Netflix.
I'm going to have to check that one out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really good.
That's cool, man.
I'll probably be watching that this evening.
But guys, this is funny. You guys will get a kick out of this. Part of the two ways I really traveled around the world, which I'm so grateful for. One was wrestling, because I went to a lot of countries, Japan, India, Europe, all of that stuff. And the other way I traveled, and most of these were, the different Africa, Haiti, a lot of the places where India was wrestling, but a lot of those places were resource poor settings. I went with my brother, but it allowed me to travel, a lot, all over the world, really, and I was grateful. But the funny part is we would go to these really high-end academic things, and I would go with them, and they would say, "Oh, tell us, we want to hear about your brother's wrestling." So these guys were all like, closet wrestling fans.
Yeah.
They wanted to know about wrestling. It was really funny.
Yes. And you know what? This goes back to something I've always said, man. When people find out you're a wrestler, it is like the most crazy thing to them. And maybe not so much now because more guys are in the business and have more access to internet and personal lives and things like that. But I always used to say, like, I could tell somebody, hey, I used to be an astronaut. And they'd be like, oh, yeah, that's cool. But I say, hey, I was a professional wrestler. No shit. Holy crap. Do you know this? Do you know that? Can you tell me this? Can you tell me that? And they're just bugging out. And they're like you said, like, yeah. They're like smart as hell, and but they want to know about wrestling.
Yeah, true. It was funny because all of his colleagues, that are all these high up academics, were like, "Can we talk to your brother about wrestling?" It's
I want to read his thesis on wrestling.
Yeah. So, Jeff, let me ask you this: what are your opinions on holistic and herbal supplements, medications?
I think it's fantastic. I think there's a big problem with the big pharma and what they're doing. I think there's a lot of things that you can do holistically and naturally that are much safer without the side effects. And it's just unfortunately, the industry has such a stranglehold on the medical whole industry that it doesn't want other players to kind of come in there and do something. But absolutely, there's a need for, more natural types of medicinal, medicines and even, healings. One of the things in Japan, I remember doing the ice bath and the saunas there. I remember being so battered up and bruised. And then I did that, and then I felt like, a totally different person. So we don't do that in the U.S., and we need to.
Yeah. The Magic Mind, and see, we've had them as a sponsor one other time, and I just know that when I use it, it increases like your focus during the day. And Jimmy knows all the details of it. Jimmy, share with him the things that work in that and the ingredient type stuff, because I can't remember. I just know that it works.
So they do it in two parts. Basically, they do it in their sleep shot and they do it in a focus shot. There's one shot you take during the day to wake you up, and it's a clean energy. It's based around, like you said, holistic.
It's not like an energy drink.
No, it's based around exogenous compounds such as like lion's mane and all these great real, like turmeric and all these great real real world, real life, not man-made ingredients. You know what I mean? And they're all about their mental wealth. Life gets tough, and they want you to be able to have something that can help you through that and give you clean, natural focus. Not like Adderall. They love to prescribe Adderall these days, and that's their new thing, and they give it to teenagers and all this stuff. But honestly, this stuff can replace all that because they believe in the 5 pillars of something they like to call mental wealth, and that is sleep, diet, exercise, stress management, and those exogenous compounds that I was talking about. And it's just cool, man, because I've been using Magic Mind's focus shots for about I would say 2 weeks now. And I feel great during the day. And then I get that sleep shot and it helps me sleep at night. It's a real nice, it's like my new normal. It's a nice little 24-hour period for me,
Yeah.
That's awesome. Send me some. I'm ready.
We will, brother. Yeah, it's on the way, man. Yeah, we'll get your address off the line, and we'll make it happen, buddy. You'll really enjoy it.
And look, one of the other things, and I'm a big, I have several, personal training certificates, which I did back in the day through American College of Sports Medicine and some other ones, and exercise and eating right and all that stuff. But especially for wrestlers, right? Because think about the CTE is a real thing, and definitely if you get dinged up in the ring and you got a lot of bumps and bruises and concussions and mild concussions and anything that can help you get back, to some clarity and focus and all that, something like this, sounds awesome.
Yeah. Like we're encouraging you, sir, we're encouraging our listeners to reflect on their own mental wealth investments, right? We're introducing our January Mental Wealth Challenge. So literally right now, Jeff, there's no better time to start than now, and make 2025 the year you build your mental resilience, improve both sleep and awake clarity with Magic Mind. And guess what? They can get 45% off the Magic Mind bundle with our link, magicmind.com/liveincojan. That's LIVEINCO Jan. Get that now, 45% off, man. Tear it up. You'll love it. Clean energy, and it's here for you right now.
45% off.
Yeah, baby.
Can't beat that.
Okay, well, so obviously, Jeff, this is awesome for me because I'm such a WCW mark. Wolfie is too, but he's a Memphis kid, and we got to love Memphis too. But so when in the early 90s, I remember seeing in Nitro, like the early 90s WCW crew of like mid-card guys. And those were the guys that I loved, like Joe Gomez, Ranger Ross, Todd Champion, Craig Pittman, Firebreaker Chip, and you. Cobra. It was always good to see you guys around, especially when you would pop up on Nitros like later on too. And I would always be able to pick you out. I'm it's Cobra, man. That ain't Sting. But anyway, so your kayfabe backstory, I want to talk about Cobra real quick because like I said, I am a mark. So anyway, your kayfabe backstory was that you were served in the Gulf War with Sergeant Craig Pittman, excuse me, a legit Marine sergeant. He abandoned you in the jungle, then reported him AWOL back at camp. And then Cobra lost all rank and respect, learned to wrestle, and came to WCW seeking revenge on Pittman. So anyway, I think Bobby Heenan and Mike Tenay might have made that up on the...
Yeah, well, so I'll give you the real scoop on it all.
Okay.
First of all, I hats off to Memphis Wrestling. I know Jeff Jarrett a little bit. I didn't know his dad, but, I know that this was a really great territory in Memphis, and there was a lot of great talent out of there. So that's just a little plug for Memphis. Really, and when I started, it was a lot of territories. I mean, there were still some territories, but, it all changed, of course, as you know. But so the Cobra gimmick, so I started out as Thunder and Lightning. That was the first thing. And Clark and I sat down and came up with the Thunder and Lightning gimmick with the capes. And it's funny because we basically did this towards, we were looking at the Road Warriors, right? Kind of big spike pads and all that kind of stuff. And so our gimmick, Thunder and Lightning, was really tailored to the WWF at the time because we had capes. So you come walking out with capes and all that, and it was like for the kids, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So anyway.
Jacked to the gills, Yeah.
So back then we were pretty jacked. So, Cobra, that was a long story, but ended up not getting, we were worked in WCW under a developmental contract, and we were down at the power plant for like a year or two down there with Ice Train and all these people that were there then, Jody, Pez Watley and Sarge, you can go back and look at that. And then we ended up, we were negotiating a contract and with the office thinking we had all this leverage. Harlem Heat, we had wrestled them. They were the incoming tag team too. There was other tag teams. There was a lot of tag teams then. And unfortunately, we didn't know any better, but to our mistake, we had an attorney involved, and we're like, we don't have any, this is our gimmick. We want rights to, the merchandise and all this kind of stuff. But we didn't know any better.
Man. Yeah,
it was more of an upstart professional company, and we didn't know. And basically, WCW called us and said, we're withdrawing our offer. right? So this was like devastating, and we'd already been there for years, working and trying to get in established. But anyway, so I got out. Clark ended up, he was married at the time and went to work for his wife's family's company, which was the right move for him. He moved back to Florida. We were in Atlanta. Both of us were based, in Atlanta with WCW there. And I, was going to maybe go into teaching. I was going back to school to teach. And everybody was like, hey, man, you should still wrestle. Just because Clark's not wrestling, you should wrestle. And I'm like, I only did a tag team. I'm not a singles wrestler, blah, 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 And so I came up with, they said, come down to the power plant. You don't have to pay anything. Obviously, you were there for years, right? They just said, and it was Dallas Page, too. And some of those guys said, just come down and do a little bit. And so I said, okay. So I sat down and came up with Cobra, and none of that story was at the time. I just said it would be cool to have what I called a paramilitary character, the special ops, black ops come out. And he has a really mysterious background. Nobody knows anything about him. And they did like Morris Code, and I had a dog tag. I took this from Bret Hart, actually. I took a dog tag off and I put it onto a kid in the office.
Yes, I always wanted one of those.
So I would take that off and put it on a kid, it's a kid-friendly, WCW gimmick. So anyway, I came up with that, and it was nothing. I wrote like a paragraph on the backstory, which was special ops, and it's shrouded in mystery, shit like that. And anyway, they made that other stuff up with Pittman. That was the office making that up to make that angle. So, which was, I thought, terrible. And I like Craig Pittman. He's an awesome guy, but we just didn't really jive wrestling, and it was never really got off the ground. And it's probably a lot of my fault too. I was green and didn't really know, how to really push an angle that well at the time and blah, blah, blah. So, I take definitely responsibility for it, but it just really wasn't. But I liked the character. I thought it was a good character. And, we did it in Orlando at the tapings and some other stuff. We did War Games one time, but, it was okay. But from that character, then, actually Dallas Page said, hey, Eric wants to do this NWO Sting thing. And Cobra really wasn't going anywhere. And, so I'm like, sure. And so that kind of Cobra morphed into NWO Sting because basically they thought I looked similar to Steve in size, we're about the same height, kind of look similar. And they said, this is believable if we put Farmer in this NWO Sting thing. And so Eric told me, he said, if this gets out, I'm squashing it. Like, I don't want anybody to know about this, not the boys or anything. So it had to be completely KK'd.
Wow.
And I said, whatever, I'll sign me up. Plus I was trying to get back in, more into the mainstream of the, wrestling.
Where things were. Yeah, that's cool, man.
Let's take a quick time out and get a word from one of my dope-ass sponsors, and we'll be right back with more Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
Are you done with the cold? Well, on Saturday, March 29th, we've got something to warm you up. It's Glory Days Grapplecon 2 at the Residence in Tampa Suncoast in Lutz, Florida. This all-day event will be a WCW reunion and feature the stars you remember, such as Double A Arn Anderson, the Russian Nightmare Nikita Koloff, Ming, Dirty Dutch Mantel, Colonel Robert Parker, Bunkhouse Buck, and much, much more. There will be over a dozen stars in attendance. Make sure to head on over to Tixtree.com to get your tickets for Glory Days Grapplecon 2.
They were only going to do it, when I attacked Lex, remember, out of the limo and all that.
You broke my heart, bro.
Well, glad I fooled a lot of people. But,
You did.
It was only going to be, like, I think really kind of like a one-time shot, but I was going to get a contract. Maybe they would have repackaged me and something. The idea for me was, why I kind of agreed to it, was to get in and get, a contract. And then I thought they were going to re-spool me up into something else, right? Like do this one gimmick, NWO Sting. And then, but I think Hogan liked it. and thought it was kind of cool. And I think they figured they could keep it, around and cause trouble. So the character stayed around.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And then you take it to Japan, and it's a babyface gimmick.
Yeah. You guys know, but so NWO, of course, as we all know, became hugely successful and popular in the U.S.
Yeah.
And the Japanese, the first tour I went over there in '93, I went for All Japan for Baba's group.
Yeah.
That was the tour where Terry Gordy,
Gotcha.
on the plane. Clark and I were on that tag team tournament.
Man.
And that's an incredible story. I'm one of few people who know it. Clark's the other one. A lot of those guys, Del Wilkes is gone. A lot of the guys that Joel Deaton is gone. A lot of those guys.
Joel's still with us.
Joel Deaton's with us.
He's still with us.
I talk to him all the time.
Joel's still with us. Yeah, it is good. Hallelujah.
But, okay. So I love Joel. He's awesome. I'll tell you another story about him later.
Please.
But, those guys like Doug Furness and Ken Ed guys. Doc and Gore. All those guys are gone. Really.
I know, man.
But Clark and I were on that flight, which was amazing. I think Slink. What was his cousin's name? Something.
Who?
Rick Slink. Gordy had a cousin. I think he's still alive.
Rick Slink. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Hang on just a second.
He was there. He's a younger guy. I think it was his cousin. And he was like a young boy kind of at the time.
Gotcha. Okay.
But anyway, so
Richard Slinker was his name.
Richard Slinker. Yeah, he was there. He was on that flight too. Or if he wasn't on the flight, he was there when we got there. When we got off the plane, he might have already been in Japan. And when we got off the flight, he met us. But he could have been on the flight. I'm not sure.
Gotcha.
But the point of this is that the WCW had an exchange, talent exchange kind of thing with New Japan. So you had Gata and Nakanishi, and a lot of those guys were coming over. Even Muda, were coming here, and so they wanted the NWO to all go over there to Japan, New Japan. But of course, those guys weren't going to go. You're not going to get Hogan and Savage and Nash and Hall and those guys to go over and do a tour in Japan, right? They just weren't. A, it's rough, and B, they're not going to spend, the time. They'll do maybe a show if they got paid enough, but they just weren't. They weren't going to do it. So basically, they said you can take NWO Sting. He's available, right? You can take Buff Bagwell. He's available. You can take Scott Norton, who was already their IWGP Heavyweight Champion. So like he's already a god over there at that point.
Right.
Yeah. And you can take Mike Rotundo, and they sent other guys. Once the NWO got a lot of guys in it, right? They started sending those kind of guys over. So I was part of that group that went over there and worked. And I have to tell you, it was a lot different style. And Scott Norton, thank God for him. He's the guy that said, hey, this is what they want you. They're expecting out of you. This is how you got to work. It's snugger. It's more stiff. They want to see, the matches are longer. It was like a whole learning curve for me. And once I got there, and I was physical anyway. I liked the physical side. Hopefully I wasn't stiff. And if I stiffed anybody, I'm sorry. But I was a physical. I liked the physicality of it. I was a linebacker. So that style, which they call strong style back then, that I was like putting on a shoe that fit. It was perfect. So I got really, comfortable with that. And then Masa Saito, who was my kind of the booker at the time, they asked me back every single tour. So he's like, can you come back? And you come back? And of course, it wasn't up to me. It was the office, would send me over. They say, take NWO Sting. So I was over there working every single tour almost for years as NWO Sting. And I have to tell you, it got really popular. At one point, the magazines come out. They don't really, that was their big thing. They had the magazines. Yeah. And they had a ranking of all the Gaijin wrestlers in Japan. That included, All Japan and New Japan. And I think I was, at one point, 5th in the country, I think.
Man.
Maybe even a little higher. Maybe, but, it was Norton and Stan Hansen and I don't know who else, Hogan or somebody. And then I was in the top of the rank for Gaijin.
Wow. That's amazing.
Steve was lower. Steve was like number 10 or something,
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And the funny thing is the Japanese knew that we were totally different. Like, A, I started painting my face different a little bit when I got over there.
Right.
B, I started wrestling different. I didn't do Sting. In the beginning, I had to kind of mimic Steve's moves, because the whole point. So they don't know the difference. But once I got to New Japan and started getting into it, that character evolved into a totally different character. Like a bad version, a real bad version of Steve.
Yeah, that's cool. So you said the name, man, and like I said, I talk to Joel quite often. Tell me some Joel Deaton stories, because see, I had a lot of fun in the ring, but the most fun, as you know, a lot of times is outside the ring, man.
Yeah, outside the ring. But so Joel Deaton. So there's a couple stories. The first trip we go over, we're in the L.A. airport, Clark and I, and we see this guy walk up. Now I'm dating myself here, but remember when everybody wore the Zuba pants?
Yes.
Zuba, like, back in the day in the 80s or whatever.
Yep.
I see this guy come up, and it looked like he got attacked by a bear. Like clothes are all ripped up. I mean, shredded.
Wow.
And he's wearing the Zuba pants. And I'm like, what the hell happened to him? He got caught in an escalator or fell down an escalator or something like that. And it was Joel Deaton.
Oh, my God.
So I'm looking at this guy. And, those guys were all, doing gimmicks and stuff, right? And Clark and I are doing protein shakes. We're so, plain Jane at the time. I mean, we're drinking protein shakes. These guys are all at the bar or whatever. So, I'm sure he fell down the stairs, intoxicated or whatever. And so I see him, like that. And then I look at him, and this is, again, you can't judge a book by its cover. But I look at Joel Deaton, and I'm like, this guy looks like a bag of crap. How is he going to do it? And I'll never forget this. We're in the back, and we're watching the matches. Clark and I are green. I'm green as a garden hose, but we're kind of stiff and big and strong, So our only kind of saving grace. But I see Joel in the back, and he's sitting there smoking a cigarette or whatever in mild manner, maybe drinking beer. I don't know. But I'm watching Joel like, what is this? Let me tell you something. When that bell rang and Joel came out, it was like another person. Joel came out there swinging a cowbell or whatever in the booth, and he flat out could work.
Yeah,
like, I'll never forget it. I mean, I was thinking like this guy, because the mistake is he didn't look athletic, but that guy could go, man. That guy was very impressive, and he was super nice. Like. You're there taking people's jobs. You don't think about that like that.
Right.
Guys worked hard to get there, and they don't want you to take their spot. We're young and green. We did, and so. But Joel was nice to us. Del Wilkes was really nice. Some of the guys, really nice to a couple of newbies that were, not in a good position. But I'll never forget that about Joel. Just like a switch went off, and the guy was like a Superman in there.
Yeah. He's been on here a couple of times. Like I say, I talked to him, personally quite a bit. Well, but he's got some great stories.
I don't know if he'll remember me. I hope he remembers me.
Oh, I'm sure
he will. He's got a good memory.
Tell him I said hi and ask it about him. And
we will. We will. I will sure do it, man. Yeah, he's got great stories. He don't forget a lot. I
tell other stories, but some of those I don't want to really talk about. But they're funny.
He don't give a shit, believe me.
Well, one time we were there. It's at the end of the thing, right? And we're signing autographs, and Joel is just like, he's pretty hammered, I guess, or whatever. Barely gets his eyes open. And they're like sticking a pen in his hand, and he's just squiggling down some shit, like it's not even legible anyway at all. Oh man, you can't give this back to them. He's like, I don't know, they don't, whatever. He was right, but I think Baba was still alive, and Mrs. Baba back then was in the back, and she came back, and she's like, kind of like, I think a fan might have took the signature. They used to give you those square cards, right? Those white cards. And I think the fan took the signature back to Mrs. Baba, like saying,
"Oh man,
this guy gave me this piece of crap." So she comes back, and I remember, we said, "Oh no, he took a real bad bump on his head." It wasn't the alcohol or
right.
He got dinged really hard, and then she was like, "Oh, is he okay?" I'm like, "We hope so, but you probably shouldn't sign anymore because he's really not there."
Yeah.
But he was awesome.
Y'all can't fave for him. That's
good save. Yeah. Good save.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
So, man, I just, there's so many questions I want to ask you. So I guess let's, while we're still talking about it, and especially you going to Japan and stuff, but man, how was that? Just like, if you could describe that amazing NWO ride, man, like how could you describe it?
It's Scott and I about it now. Every wrestler will tell you, their period was the best period, right? The golden age. You
Sure.
talk to Tony Atlas, he's going to tell you, when they were in the 70s, and for them it was, there was the pinnacle or height of their career. And, Scott Norton, he's probably one of the only guys that I talk to on a regular basis from wrestling, really. Scott and I are real close.
That's awesome.
He's like a brother. He's like a brother to me. And, we talk about it and just sometimes think back, like, it was unbelievable. We were sold out every single town. All the merchandise would sell out. And, we were working main events every night, the NWO with Chono and Muda and Tenzan and Kojima and Fujinami and Choshu and all those, the top stars over there, like their top talent every single night. And to be honest, that's when that was the best for me, like personally, I was at the pinnacle of my wrestling kind of ability then. And I knew a lot at that point and could work really well. And, you don't realize how green you are until you get experience like that. But working with those Japanese guys, especially, like Kojima and Tenzan, like I worked hard not to make mistakes, but if you made a mistake, they would cover it up so fast and make it look pleasant. You're just like, man, that's the consummate professional to be able to go out there and put on a show and just cover everything and never, we didn't even communicate much. Some of the guys didn't speak English. And so you just it was good because it was like the old school. You went out there and you kind of worked, and you kind of what was happening and the finishes were long there, but you kind of figured out what the audience was into, and you kind of worked old school way. And to me, it was the best. And you can ask Scott. We can get him on your show too. I'll
Thank you.
Hook you up with Scott Norton. But it was. Just the best wrestling experience. It was rough and it was a grind and we worked every night and it's brutal to be on tour. And you got a 3-week tour and you're working, 20 days out of 21 days, you have 1 day off and that can grind you. It's brutal, but once you're into it and you're used to doing it every night, you're running on all cylinders and it was some of the best wrestling, ever.
Yeah. Fill the listeners in on, not just the in-ring part of Japan and that time period, but how you get treated outside by the fans and how the promoters and all those folks take care of you and everything.
Yeah. I'd never experienced anything like it. Basically, they when you land, they give you an envelope full of money, and that's really for like your daily food allowance. And you got pretty well. We were all, I had to work hard to get up to where I was getting paid really well, which I did through, basically proving myself there. But they give you some money, right when you get off the plane. And basically they make all the hotel arrangements, all the travel arrangements, everything is kind of laid out for you. All you have to really do is get up in the morning and make it on the bus, because the tour, you had to be on time for that. And it's crazy because it takes it all out of you don't have to worry. And also, in WCW, there was, a lot of little cliques and groups and people were pushing their side. And, that you talked about the middle guy, which you're absolutely right. There was a group of us, which was, the German kid, he just did some, Wright. What was his
Alex
name?
Wright.
Alex Wright.
Right, and Disco and me and all those guys, we were all kind of pretty good, hands, but, we had to put over all the older guys, and they weren't going away. And so the middle group had a really, really hard time. And you got there and you would be on the card and then they take you off or they put you over here and they switch you around and they go, we're going to have you do this job tonight for this guy because we got to get him over. Yeah. And so it's very frustrating for someone who didn't have any power or leverage, We couldn't say, no, I'm not doing it. You had to say, okay, if, whatever. So that's hard. But when you got to Japan, there was no politics. There was no, backroom. On the board was the matches. They listed them on a whiteboard and they didn't change. And you knew what you were going to do. You knew who you were working. And it was like, they had everything. There wasn't all this questions about what are we going to do? Should we push it this way? That they knew what they were doing. The ring was set up. The promotional materials was set up. The bus driver, Agasaka back then, everything was just like perfectly planned out. And so it was very easy for you to come in there and just kind of do your job, which was the best part.
Yeah.
And now a word from our sponsor.
The Portland Wrestling Expo will take place on Saturday, February 22nd at the Holiday Inn Portland Airport. The PWE will be a celebration of the unique past and present of the Pacific Northwest area. It's presented by Captain's Corner. Announced guests include the Grappler, Mean Mike Miller, Top Gun, Ricky Santana, Moondog Moretti, John Nord, and C.W. Bergstrom. There will even be a Portland Wrestling History Q&A. In addition, there'll be international guests such as Hall of Famers Eric Bischoff, Rikishi, crowd favorites like The Boogeyman and Lance Von Erich. Make sure to head on over to pwexpo.com to get your tickets. VIP tickets are already half sold. The Portland Wrestling Expo on Saturday, February 22nd. Be there.
What about the nightlife? Now, I know you said you were a protein shake guy, and I don't mean...
No, I ended up being a beer guy later, but I'm saying at that time.
I just mean, explain the nightlife to the listeners, like going out and just...
It was also amazing. Scott and I, they would put, they had Asahi, which was my favorite beer, and Scott too, I'm pretty sure.
Great.
And so we would get back on the bus, and they'd have the cooler would be full of, Asahi beer for us. And they treated us really... really well. And the fans, they thought you were like a movie star over there. They really were it was a different thing than in the United States for sure. So you're elevated in the status in Japan. So yeah, we got great treatment. And then a lot of nights when we went out, we had sponsors, so someone from the town that we were wrestling in would say, I want to take out the NWO guys, so we'd all go to a restaurant or bar, and they'd feed us. You didn't even pay for anything, all the drinks and food you could eat. And that was part of their, and you did that almost every night, going out, great meals and drinking beer and hanging out with the promoters or whoever it was that was in that town, that we were working for. And you stumbled home and you're, back to your room, went to sleep and got up and did it again.
The good old days. So let's see. You got back into wrestling. You got out and got back in. So, kind of, what's going on with you now? I because of my brother, and I'm glad you brought that up earlier. I was in Atlanta. I was still working with New Japan, but I kind of was, getting older and didn't really want to keep going. Kind of, although it's out of wrestling, I kind of wanted to still swing a golf club or something if, I didn't want to wind up. But I saw a lot of guys, get horrific injuries. I saw people killed, so we see that. You're kind of like, And my brother was saying, I want you to get out of wrestling. I don't want you to stay in it, CTE, all that stuff. You out in this. And so I kind of listened to him and then ended up getting divorced. And I was married at the time in Atlanta. And then he's the one.
He told you to do that as well? No, I'm just kidding.
No, he didn't tell me to get
I'm just kidding.
And saved me from probably going to jail because I was going to kill some other guy. He was able to talk reason to me. And I drove to Miami. So I came to Miami because of him. And then, I stayed here. And, of course, I was feeling terrible. You get divorced. I don't know if you guys are married or been divorced.
Yeah. It's happened. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I was like all depressed and he said, come with me to Africa, actually. And I said, what am I going to do? I don't have any medical training. I'm just going to be watching. He said, shut the F up and come with me to Africa. And so I did. And that was like a very transformative thing for me because when you see that kind of suffering over there and what was going on, we were in a rural place with no health care. He was building a hospital there for this area. And, it just changed me and it made me say, why am I feel sorry for myself over, this, whatever, my relationship failing or whatever it was. And these people don't have enough or whatever. So it kind of definitely, and I've been with him before, on stuff, but this particular trip just hit me differently, I think, because of the situation I was in. Right. And then I came back to the U.S. and to Miami, and I said, well, I'm going to go back to school and get a master's in public health, because I said, then I can help my brother a little bit more and have more kind of credentials. So I went back to school, at like 50 years old, and completed a master's in public health. And then I went to work for the University of Miami, and I still work for them today. So
wow.
And that the thing I was looking at, tell me the name of the thing that you do. It's got a
well, there was an exercise in genetics kind of research I was doing at one point, but I shifted out of that. I was working for an Institute for Advanced Study of the Americas, which kind of focuses on Latin America and the Caribbean here. But I'm switching now to more global health. So I'm going to try to, I want to give back. I want to get in a position to try to help, especially, with the passing of my brother, to try to, carry on, not his stuff, but just try to, at least honor him by doing something to give back,
Yeah,
it's very admirable. Very admirable.
It really is, man.
Let's talk again real quick about coming up in Lutz, Florida, and the convention that you're going to be. You don't do a lot of these conventions, do you?
I don't do a lot of things. I'm working full time, and I don't really have all that much time, really. And
right.
It's also I'm just not. There's no need for. I'm not pushing anything, promoting anything. I don't have. I'm a pretty private person. I don't, do a website where you see me doing stuff, working out or whatever. I'm just kind of low key. So I'm doing it because Nick invited me and asked me, and the other reason I sometimes go is if Scott Norton goes, to see Scott, I'll go.
Hey, let me tell you a great story real quick. John Nord, we had him for we were working with Nick for the Portland, up at February 22nd in Portland, Oregon for the Portland Wrestling Expo. And so we had John Nord on, and he told us an incredible story that one time he and Kurt Hennig looked similar in high school, and they were at McDonald's and they saw Hawk in the drive-through, I guess. And Kurt runs up and punches Hawk in the face through the window and runs. And as Hawk recoils, he sees John there instead. So he thinks John punched him instead of Kurt because he said Kurt would always ditch after he did a rib. And so the next day at school, you'll have to tell Scott this, and we'll be glad to when we have him on. Thank you for that, by the way. But Hawk and Scott Norton showed up at Robbinsdale High the next day to beat them both up.
I 100% believe it. Let me tell you, there's something in the water in Minnesota.
Yeah.
There's something. Those guys, I knew Kurt a little bit,
Right.
He was in WCW when I was there, and he was a prankster and a jokester, and, and I knew Hawk a little too. He did Japan when I was there one time. We got to hang out and went to go to the bar together. And of course I know Scott like a brother, and I didn't know Animal, but those guys, they're all from that Minnesota, and actually I knew Ole Anderson. Ole Anderson bought my pickup truck. He was down at the power plant at one point, and I knew Ole pretty well. And those guys from Minnesota, they're a wild bunch. All of them.
Yeah, they are.
Vikings.
None of them that aren't wild that I know of.
Yeah. They're all
pretty
just
much
a bunch of Vikings, Norwegian.
Yeah. That's right. Well, Scott's actually Polish, but close enough.
Right. Fair enough. You great point, but yeah. But yeah,
this
anyway.
Florida thing will be a good opportunity for the listeners, our listeners down there in Florida. I miss Florida. I lived in Tampa for just a little bit, about a year, a little over a year I lived there, and that was in like 2018. I miss it. I really liked it there, but I was too far away from my son. That made me come back. But so for our listeners down there, you're not going to miss this, man, and an opportunity here for NWO Sting. Get an autograph, get a picture with him, because as I just mentioned, he don't do these much. So here's your chance to come out and see a lot of the guys from Florida that were WCW legends.
Yeah. Glory Days Grapplecon 2 with Captain's Corner and our buddy Captain Corner Nick. Saturday, March 29th, Lutz, Florida. Residence Inns, Tampa Suncoast Parkway at North Point Village. Do not miss this WCW extravaganza. I'm serious. It's going to be incredible. March 29th. So when was the last one that you did, if you don't mind us asking, Jeff? When was the last?
I'm trying to think. was one of those big ones, the Comic-Con things. That was,
Okay.
It was a lot of guys there. It was a bunch of guys. It was one of the last one I did was a big one, and Scott was there.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
Probably
Might have been in New
WrestleCade
York.
or one of those.
Yeah, it was one of those WrestleCade kind of ones.
Gotcha. Okay. That's cool. So you picked the awesome ones.
Well,
And get you a Cobra autograph, not just NWO Sting. For me, I highly recommend a good Cobra autograph.
Yeah, I'll see if I can pick up one of those dog tags for you.
Oh, bro, do that. I got all the magic mind you need, buddy.
That's awesome, man. Hey, we appreciate you coming on, taking time out of your schedule, man, to chat with us and let the listeners know about the expo coming up in Tampa. Lutz, same thing, sort of, right? But yeah, man, we really appreciate you, man, coming on and all that good stuff. And have a good rest of your day. And we appreciate you.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And I will send me a text, and I'll get you Scott Norton's information. You can get him on the show.
Okay.
That guy's got some incredible stories.
Oh, I can't wait.
I mean,
Thank
I don't
you so
have
much.
time to go into this, but he wrestled a bear.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about that.
We'll talk about it.
That's another story. That's another
Definitely.
time.
That was the
All
only
right,
time
guys.
the
Thanks
bear.
a lot.
Yeah. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Jack.
All right.
Take care.
All right.
And we will be right back with our review on the second Netflix Monday Night Raw with current affairs.
DJ, hit the music.
It's a current affair. It's a current affair. Love it in color. It's a current affair. Love it in color.
All right, we are back, and thank you so much, NWO Sting, Jeff Farmer. That was pretty cool, man. The dude has some great stories, Jimmy.
I know, bro. And it was funny. Like I don't know when we read the stuff about him from his past, his brother and all that. We were reading, and you were like, dude, look at this. And I'm like, I know, I just read it. So it's like,
I know, that's crazy. Like, I mean, the shit about his brother, I mean, that's pretty freaking cool, man. He was in some high up places in the government. And
I know.
then,
Yeah.
I mean, just the humanitarian stuff and living on a bus in the Gulf of Mexico, converted into a boat or whatever. That's crazy, man.
I know. And then he went on to ride that ride with the NWO and the All
Who would
Japan.
ever thought, man? You know how we have people on here and you're like, okay, I've seen this guy on wrestling. But then you get their backstory and you're like, holy shit, man, this son of a bitch has lived a life that I couldn't imagine. That's cool as shit, man.
I know.
That's cool as shit, man. People just, man, when you dig into wrestlers, man, wrestlers are eccentric, crazy, cool people, man. They really are.
They sure are.
Yeah. So, your favorite segment is current affairs.
Yeah. Current affairs.
Yeah. And you even made a song about it. Like,
I
here
did.
you go.
Here you go. And we just played it a minute ago. So
Do you remember that on Live and in Color?
Live in Color. Live in Color. In Living Color.
I like song about it. Like, here you go.
Yeah. I got no woman. She stank like booty hole. Like.
Yes, we should play that right there.
All right.
So we're gonna just like last week. Monday Night Raw is debuted on Netflix last week, and now this is the second week. And I figured a hack, and I told you about it.
I love
Watch it the next day. You don't have to sit through the commercials.
Boom.
Yeah,
That's all
and
I needed to
also
know.
because the playoffs were on, and I would rather, and it's not rather, but yeah, I would rather. I'd rather watch football and then watch wrestling the next day, especially if I know I don't have to go through the commercials.
Yeah, that makes it so much more worth it.
Yeah,
honestly.
and I'm going to do that every week from now on if we're going to cover this.
Me too.
Yeah.
In perpetuity.
Yeah, because I don't care. It's not like football, you got to, if somebody tells me who wins and all that shit, I might not watch it. But wrestling, I don't care if you tell me who wins.
Right.
I want to see the match to see how they did. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So let me ask you this: your overall opinion of the first week versus the second week. Did they? Remember I said last week they set the bar pretty damn high. Do you think they were able to reach that?
No, but it was good.
I agree.
Yeah, but I mean, it was impossible.
Not in a bad way.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Not in a bad way, but it did not. I mean, of course, the first one's going to have to be, all the stars and all of this and all of that. But last week felt like, a PLE, a WrestleMania or something like that,
Yeah, right.
This one felt like a Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, Raw.
Yeah. And then I saw people talking about, it ended at this time and blah, blah, blah. It's like, they told you weeks ago that there's no time on this show now because of the opportunities with streaming on Netflix. They don't have to have a time slot. Right. They can do I doubt that we'll see 40 minutes, but Hunter was quoted as saying 40 minutes to 4 hours or something like that. But whatever. Just make it good, make it entertaining, make it flow. I'm cool with that. And I was cool with this show. Were you?
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, I think, and I don't want to get into the grading yet, but I think we graded last week's pretty high. I don't think this one was that far off of it. I think the show was solid, but like you said, it went from a mid-level PLE to a Raw. And now I think this is probably going to be the way things are. And that's good. I like it. Yeah. And I agree with you. 40 minutes will never happen, but I don't. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know what they can do in 40 minutes. I mean, shit. So anyway, we are going to bring in a little guest today. That yeah, he's little. He's a little guest. He's 16, but he's a little guest. I want to bring in Isaiah.
Isaiah
Michelle.
Childress.
Yes, we're going to bring him in, and because he's the new school of watching wrestling. Like I remember, well, at his age, I was already getting into the business, but he's watched it since he was a little kid. His mom wrestled and things like that. So, I mean, he's been around and he has 10,000 wrestling figures and all this kind of stuff. So I want to hear his opinion. And
I love it.
Yeah, and in doing that, he probably will disagree with some of the stuff we say. That's okay. That's okay. Yeah. We'll get a young man's perspective on things. So let's just start out with CM Punk comes out and then cuts a great interview or whatever. That was awesome. And see, the thing about WWE is, as compared, in my opinion, to the other stuff, man, they build things up so good. Right. Even with the interviews and stuff, and we might not have got the greatest matches. Like I felt like The Miz versus what's his name?
Right. Yeah. Him.
Oh man, I don't mean to say that in a derogatory way. What's his name that The Miz fought?
Sami Zayn.
Sami Zayn. So I really don't get the whole Sami Zayn thing. Like
me either.
Here's the way I do it in my mind with him. Bugsy McGraw.
Oh,
right.
Okay. Yeah.
He's kind of like the guy that's like, I don't know, kind of crazy, kind of weird looking, and no best body, no great gimmick, no nothing like that, but you just kind of like him, right? You see what I'm saying?
It took me a while with him, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, now. I mean, and he sells great, and he does all that, but then like in that match, it wasn't the same. He didn't. In the matches lately, he's been doing the whole sell Ricky Morton, I'm dead, come back, boom, we're with you, guy, underdog. This one, it was like Miz was a job guy almost, a carpenter, and a good one. But you see what I'm saying? Without the big dragon beating up Sami Zayn, it just wasn't the same feel for me.
Right. I'm with you, man. I'm with you for sure.
What do you think, Isaiah?
Well, I do agree with you guys are saying, like The Miz, and he's been in the business for a long time, and I'm sure they're trying to wind down on him. And they definitely putting Sammy a little bit over, and I like Sammy's gimmick because it's not all that, but it's still there. You know what I'm talking about? Like I love the character, but I think they.
What do you think his character is, though?
To be honest, it reminds me of Eugene.
Okay.
It reminds me of Eugene, not the best body.
So Sami Zayn is.
Well, no, his gimmick reminds me. He's just.
No, I get it. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, But that's really what I think about it. And
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. I love to have the different opinions.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
So anyway, that first, and going back to that, the CM Punk and
Drew and Seth Rollins.
Drew, yeah, and that was good, man. But because they all, I'm going into the Royal Rumble, I'm going to beat you in the Royal. They're just building up, and that's what they do good.
Right.
So that was good stuff. The one thing that I saw that I wish would have happened, man, it just reminded me of just knowledge of the business, man, was when Drew started walking down, they were like, come on. He got what, 20 feet from the ring and then backed off.
Heeled out. Yep, I loved it.
I wish he would have not slid in, but like rolled under the bottom rope and then rolled back out. That would have got more heat than anything, I think. Yeah. Just my personal opinion. But
that's
anyway.
Funny. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So let's move on. All right. So the next gimmick was Chad Gable, who is a great worker. And then the debut of Pentagon. Penta, I don't know. He's got so many names.
Penta Jr.
I know.
Yeah. And I think, I swear to God, I was looking at his stuff, man. And here's what I thought about that. All right. The dude's look is freaking tough, man. Freaking cool, man. Freaking super cool look. I love it. If I was a kid, I'd love it. I'd eat it up.
Right.
The match itself, and Chad Gable is a great worker. So here's my thoughts on this. They both went out there going, okay, we got to get this guy over 1,000%, right?
Right.
It was decent.
Right.
The moves were good and decent. They weren't anything that was super incredible to me, although the Mexican Destroyer looked really good, and it was because the way Chad Gable took it.
Right.
It wasn't anything other than that. It was the way he
like
took
a lawn dart,
Yeah. And the match was good. The one move where he jumps up and does the Rana off the top, inverted, whatever you want to call that. Little bit of in my opinion, everybody said it looked good, but in my opinion, it was like a slip. Then he flipped.
Yeah.
You got to hold on a little longer, in my opinion, the way I take it, the way I took it, whatever. But yeah, the match was good. I don't think it was like, hey, we got to go out there and it just didn't, to me, go, this is what we got to do. And so here's my question. Is this going to last? Are they going to do, and I just said it a minute ago, they're great at getting people over, like with the angles and all that kind of stuff. And the matches, if you're getting people over with the angles and all that, the matches, I'm not going to say they don't matter, but you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They kind of don't, they kind of do. It was good. I liked the way that he did the Spanish and English. I mean, decent promo. I heard people going, "Oh, it's the greatest I've ever seen," but I don't think
probably from him, maybe. But.
Maybe, I don't know. I've never seen another one. And honestly, the first time I ever seen him work, I've only seen pictures of him and his action figures and stuff. So I'll let you go, and then I'll let Isaiah go on your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so my thoughts real quick. Automatically, what I saw was Chad Gable is clearly like the new Arn Anderson, Bret Hart. Basically, Vince used to say, hey, send him out with Arn or send him out with Bret and see how they are. See, this is a new guy to the company. Let's test him out. Let's put our most WWE working dude. And that's what Chad Gable is now. I think it showed us last night that Chad is now their guy for that stuff, which is cool. And that's a good spot for him to be in for sure because he's so talented. Penta for me now, I'm sorry, Isaiah, don't take disrespect on this, but for Penta, I love his look. I'm with you, but I like his brother Ray much better in the ring. Actually, Ray is almost like, he reminds me of Jackie Chan. You know how Jackie Chan would do those, like, he even did like a drunken master style where he would fight and he would be like, he would be drinking, but his style would be worked into a martial art. And it's amazing. And Ray Phoenix has like this style about him that it's almost chaotic, but in control. But anyway, Pentagon is much more, a little more straight ahead, but again, incredibly talented. One thing that I think could have done better is I wish it was Ricochet instead of Chad Gable in that match. I think then we could have really see what Pentagon could do in the lucha style. But again,
they've not worked each other.
Yeah.
they probably have somewhere. I'm not sure. Maybe Isaiah knows.
Isaiah just told me. He said Lucha Underground they have because he was. Yeah, I was going to say Prince Puma because I saw that something that I watched.
Yeah,
that was pretty good. But it's also that choreographed style that there's a place for it, man. There really is. There's a place for it, and it's just But yes, there is a place for it. I mean, even going back to the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, there's a place for everything. Hardcore, lucha is what it would be called.
Women,
now. Back then it was
midgets,
high flying, midgets, women, all that kind of stuff. There's a place for everything.
Sure.
So now, Isaiah, what was your impression of your favorite guy in the whole world debuting on WWE?
So I am very biased. I've been waiting for this for a long time because I've been a fan of Penta since Lucha Underground. So I've been a fan, and I do agree with you with Rey Fenix. He has such a better moveset than Penta. But the thing is that Penta, man, I've just always liked him because he looks buff, man. Like he's in his younger days. He's looking big and his moveset, and I love the Mexican Destroyer. They put the most perfect dude, Chad Gable, and same for Ricochet, or some of the best sellers that make moves look so great.
Yeah.
I know that Chad Gable, Chad Gable was so perfect for that opportunity for Penta to make his debut so he can get over. But I think I'm a little bit more biased on the match. I think the match was one of the best ones on the scorecard.
Okay.
And
which scorecard is that? Is that for the show?
This show and for some of the most wrestling like WWE matches that's been this year.
Okay.
A couple of years.
Okay.
All right.
But yeah, I'm a young kid, and I know the young kids dig it because how cool they look. And yes, he's got the looks, man.
He's definitely got the look.
Yeah.
The movesets, the looks, everything's awesome about him. And I feel like WWE, hopefully they'll treat him right and keep him over. Hopefully he can be an IC title winner or US, but I don't know about WWE, but hopefully.
Yeah, I think so. I agree. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So, was there anything in between that and the Sheamus match with Ludwig?
No, Sheamus came right out. It was like Penta was hugging his family.
And I'll be honest with you, I watched this. I mean, I think that was a filler match, and I'm not knocking either one of them. Both solid, but to me, that was just a filler to get to the other stuff.
They've had kind of like an argument. They've had kind of like a little buffer against each other. Sheamus he's a pretty good wrestler.
Oh yeah,
I like Ludwig too. Sheamus is he's older, man, and he's still doing great in that ring. I just gotta put that out.
I agree.
Sheamus is pretty old guy.
I guess there was just not such a build up for the other stuff around it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, they've only versed 3 times. I think Sheamus had something against him and something. I mean, I don't really know the full story because I just started watching.
But Ludwig's getting Tiffy time.
Yeah, Tiffy time. Yeah.
So I guess we got to give him a little props for that.
Oh, that's his girl? That's cool. Good for him, man. Yeah. Good on him, Ludwig.
So what is your opinion on that?
Man,
not Tiffy time, but
we could go into that for sure. But I would be glad to go into that. But anyway, so I think
I know what we're forgetting, and I don't know where this was because actually, or was it after this match when Rhea and Tiffy and
they had a gimmick.
They had a little a promo.
Yeah,
you talk like me. Was that before this match or after?
It was.
Nobody remembers.
I think it's after.
Yeah, it was after because I know Sheamus was coming right out as soon as literally Penta was
directly straight out of that match.
Yeah.
Sheamus came.
So here's what in that promo. Here's what I saw.
Okay,
is Rhea is obviously over like hell.
Yeah.
But I also think, and this is just that promo last night, I don't know. I felt like they were all right, say this, say that, and then boom. Because I mean, it was very generic in what she said. I mean, but she's over, and it's all her look, and she can work.
Right.
So I'm trying to figure out now. Okay, can this girl talk?
and can they get her to talk? Because I ain't seen nothing before this that tells me otherwise. Not to say that I've saw something and I'm like, oh, she can't talk, but can she is what I want to see.
I mean, that is a great question, actually. Yeah. What do you think, Isaiah?
I think Rhea, like as you said, you guys, she's got the look, she can wrestle. But I honestly agree with you. We never see her talk.
Yeah.
If anything's happened, it's Mommy or Dominic talking.
Yeah.
And especially with like the Dominic and the live thing, I think that's a really good build up for Rhea to keep going on. I've got a little thing. It's gonna be real quick. It's about Pentagon's build up. The Pentagon's build up. WWE. I seen this on TikTok. It's about to get banned and Instagram and all this. I seen that the WWE released his merch before he had his debut. So it kind of ruined.
Wow.
Yeah, I seen they released his merch before he had his debut, and that's when people all realized, man, it's actually Pentagon. It kind of ruined the build up.
That's an odd misstep.
So back to talking about the girls' three-way interview there. Man, for the life of me, the people booed her, but I'm trying to figure out whether it's like real heat or they're just like me and like don't see it. And I'm talking about Nia Jax. Yeah. I just don't get it with her, man. I don't. And I mean, yes, she's part of the bloodline or whatever. Not really, but sort of. And I just don't get it, man. I mean, she looks like Jennifer Lopez if she ate Jennifer Lopez. And I see her stuff on social media. She seems like a fun person. Oh, yeah. Like she seems like really fun doing all the little videos with the girls and all that kind of stuff. And God, I hate to knock her, but I just, as far as business, I don't see it, man. I don't see it.
Not good in the ring.
I feel like I agree with that. And I feel like she's dangerous, man. It looks like she's always hurting somebody. And
I know.
It looks like she forgets stuff, and I just don't know, man. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm good without ever seeing her again. I mean, I think they want her to be the female Andre or something.
Yeah,
but I
it's like the girl Andre. Like she's the biggest and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, man, I don't know. I feel like they could do something. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not gonna knock her that bad. Tiffy time. What is it? Tiffy top now. Is that what they said? Tiffy top. Is that what they said? Something like that. I swear it was close. No, it was Tiffy time, but now that she's got the belt, she's Tiffy top, I think.
Tippy top. Tippy top.
Tippy top. That's what it is. That's what it is.
That's it. Okay.
So I thought that was good. And, and I think she's incredibly athletic. She reminds me, and I don't watch NXT. I've only seen the clips of this Soul. Was it Del Sol?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
and that move she does where she
Samurai Del
up
Sol.
And she does a flip into a RKO.
Yeah.
That could be a thing in the future.
Definitely. I can see it. Yeah.
So anyway, let's move on. The first women's Intercontinental Championship was given to Lyra Valkyra. Is that how you say her name? Yeah. Decent match. I thought, for girls. And I hate to say that. That's so...
especially for the first, this is the championship match. I feel like they had a good build-up, but not a good enough build-up, because that is the first women's Intercontinental Championship.
Yeah.
And I really think I like Lyra, but I'm not the biggest fan on Dakota Kai.
Okay.
And I like Lyra's gear and
the wings.
Yes, that's awesome. The way she comes in. It reminds me of Ricochet when he first came to WWE with his wings.
That makes sense. Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
What'd you think about it, Jimmy?
I mean, I'm with y'all, honestly. I mean, I nothing really stood out to me. I'm kind of with. I actually have nothing to add, honestly. I think y'all said it perfectly.
Yeah.
You know.
And honestly, okay, so. The first week of Netflix Raw, I watched it live all the way through. This one, and this is just me. I paused it, and because I was like, I need a break.
Sure.
Yeah. And it was a shorter show. Yeah. As we've said, it was a shorter show, but then as it got through it, I was like, in order to be a real, critic and look at it the way I need to look at it, I need a break. So I stopped watching it. I watched something else. Then I came back to it. So, and also no commercials. But so anyway, man, I don't know, man, if it could hold, just for me, I'm sure it can hold everyone's else attention. I try to look at it in so many different ways. Like, I'm looking at it as a wrestler. I try to look at it as the kid in me. I try to look at it as the person that was before the business. And I also try to look at it as the person now. So I got so many ways I'm looking at this. So let's go on to the street fight with Damian Priest and Finn Balor.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really good match. I loved the way they went out into the crowd. It reminded me of me and Jamie versus Tommy and Doug going out in the fairgrounds in Nashville. And we used to always do that and laying it in. They were laying it in the crowd. And I just feel like the people love that when you come out there with them. They love it. Totally. If you're laying it in, they're like,
that's
they're
real.
Like, shit, yeah, he hit it.
Yeah. Yeah,
and they pretty much did. There was a couple of times where I was like, but anyway, the whole thing, like the gimmick out of the balcony through the table, and then putting him on a stretcher, and then fuck it, go get him, bring him back. That was awesome. I really wish you wouldn't have kicked out of so much shit, especially with Finn being. And I'm not a huge fan of either one, honestly. I mean, I don't dislike either one of them, but I just wish that, they went through the table. You put him on a stretcher, you bring him back, and then you do something to him, he kicks out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, come on, man. I really think it should have been. I love the way they did that with there was a pause there. You go through, out of the balcony through tables, boom, everybody's hurt. Put him on a stretcher. I love the thing they went and go get him, and boom, bring him back. But then for him to keep kicking out and having to go through all this stuff, no, just bring him back and maybe one false finish and boom, he's done. He was on a stretcher.
Right.
You can add to it.
All right, so yeah, I definitely agree with that. In more modern wrestling, like in the old times, man, finishers, like there's good finishes. Now, man, they're like, you'll hit somebody with a chair and they'll start bleeding, and you throw them to a table, and then you do your finisher. The best moves is the finisher moves. You're supposed to end the match with that. Yeah. And so, other than like a street fight, of course, or something like a hardcore match. But man, they have ruined finishers, man. It feels like they kick out of some crazy that should not be kicked out. I'm sorry, man, but it is crazy how many times.
He's going to church here in a minute.
That made me so mad. And how WWE and just modern wrestling, man, especially indies. I like indie wrestling more than I like indie and WWE about the same.
WWB?
But man, it makes me so mad when they're kicking out of like 3 finishers, like Goldberg and Brock Lesnar having 13 finisher moves in a WrestleMania match. I hated that.
Yeah,
we feel you on that for sure.
Dude, you tell them I'm so mad I can't.
What do you think, Jimmy, on that match? You take outs from that?
I'm sorry, bro. I'm kind of just over both of them. I hate to say it. You know what I was hoping that was going to happen, because Finn used to do this character, the Demon, like when he first started. Like, I just thought they may pull that out, but then I thought, no, they won't, because they put Penta out and he's got makeup, and they're probably not going to do that. But I just thought, man, let's bring. Was this a blow off, you think, or was this a continuation? What do you think?
It kind of seems like a blow off, but I mean, who knows? I mean, you never know where they're going to go, and that's the thing. You can't predict what they're doing. I mean, unless you're in the office, you don't know. Right. I hate to be one of those people who's going to try to predict stuff or knock it in any kind of way, because I mean, I don't know what they're doing. I'm not in the office, and I know people that are, but I don't call them up every day and, hey, what are y'all going to do next week?
Hey, dog. Hey,
Road Dog. What y'all going to do next week? Because I
got money on it.
Yeah. Hey, and one thing I do want to say that I forgot is in the Penta match with Gable, I saw people saying they were talking, and yes, they were. Mm-hmm. I feel like Penta got lost. Yeah. And the reason, but my tenure in the business tells me that, because of the way he reacted, and then the way Gable reacted, and the referee also. I felt like he got lost somewhere in there, and they were just reminding him of what was next. You could rewatch it, listeners, and see if you agree with me. Jimmy, you can too, and so can you, Isaiah. But I just really think that was a thing. I think he really got lost there for a second. And so, again, I mean, I think it was a great debut. I think everybody's been wanting to see him. Great gimmick, great action figure. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But for me, if it was, my debut, I can't say that I would do better than him or anything like that. But if I was given the opportunity, I just feel like I would have made it a little bit better. Went out there and did my best shit. I do like the fact that when he dove over the top rope and Gable somewhat caught him, somewhat missed him, and they both sold it. Because usually you see the guy, no matter what, they're jumping up going, "Hey, crowd, look what I just did." Yeah. But he realized the fact that, hell, he took a hell of a bump, man. Yeah. And another great bump was in the girls' match. That suplex off the apron to the floor was pretty badass, man. And I can tell you, again, from experience, that shit hurts, man. Right. That floor, even though you got that padding down there, it don't give like the ring does. You know, that shit hurts, man. So that was a hell of a bump. But again, great. I felt like Netflix Raw, man.
Yeah. I think it's right, and I'm excited to see where they go from here, and I can't wait to. I think they're on a good roll here. Like I said, I did notice that AEW has now started streaming on Max, so they don't want to let the WWE get too far ahead. But man,
my Max subscription ran out, so we won't be reviewing that anytime soon.
It's okay. It's all right. I'm okay with that. But anyway, yeah. So what would you give the rating on this episode of Raw, Wolfie?
What did we gave last week a straight A, right?
Yeah, it was an A. Yeah.
Yeah. So this week to me, because they set the bar high, man, I would give it like a B. A B.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't have, and like I said, expected, you had the debut thing with all the stars and all that kind of stuff, and it went, what was it, 4.5 hour runtime or something, I think. It was long, man, and and it didn't seem like that to me because it was the first one and stuff like that, and so I was hyped for it. So anyway, I'll give this one a B. What do you give it, Isaiah?
A high B.
A high B. That'd be a B plus.
Yeah, about an 88.
An 88. Hang on a second, because an 88 in our day used to be C, bro.
Oh, yeah. C?
No, wait. It was 85 and below was a C, right?
Right.
Or Jimmy?
Yeah. Crazy.
Okay, so you're giving it a B minus at an 88.
Yeah.
Yeah, then
you'd have to go, I think 92.
Right. 90. Yeah, 92. Yeah.
I just don't feel like it was as good as the first one. So it definitely,
But Penta debuted for you.
Yeah, that's the only thing I really cared about. I was just really mad over the street fight. I'm really sorry. Balor, man, he's been losing so much. And Damian, I'm just kind of annoyed of both of them, and kind of just want him to go on. I want Rhea. You
want Rhea?
No, well, I kind of like what they're doing with the girls right now. Tiffy's awesome, man. I love watching her, and I love Rhea. I like this new girl. Who's prettier?
Yeah.
Rhea or
Rhea?
Tiffy?
Yeah.
Liv Morgan.
I love it. No better way to end this.
Just before we go, Wolfie, once again, listeners, we've got the January Mental Wealth Challenge. There's no better time to start than now. Make 2025 the year you build your mental resilience, improve both your sleep and your awake clarity with Magic Mind. Right now, you can get the 24-hour pack, focus, and sleep shots bundled up for the first time at 45% off, exclusive at our link, www.magicmind.com/live in code Jan. If you don't want to worry about writing all that down, it's at the very first link in our description of the episode. So go there, click the link, and get right.
Hey, and if you don't believe us, listen to the brother of a guy that was high up in the government in health and education. So
trust him.
Trust him.
Well, that's all I got, brother.
All right, me too, man. Can't wait for you guys to join us next week to see what we got in store.
Still live and in color on the Wolfie D. You got a cap for your dome.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, the podcast that's based on the old school but can still help you find the good stuff from today. Jimmy Street and the Plastic Sheik, Jared, are the undisputed tag team champions of the wrestling podcast world. From thought-provoking topics to superstar interviews to action figure expertise. This team does it all, and all they ask is, give me back my pro wrestling! Every other Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
That's right, it's the talk of Middle Tennessee, the channel you love to hate and the channel you hate to love. It's Brian Turner from Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. And if you're looking for matches from Wolfie D to Jerry Lawler to Dusty Rhodes and the team that put a pimp before your eyes and a goatee between your thighs, Boudica and Athena, go to lostwrestling.com. See, I made it easy for you. Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. Booyah.
Hey everybody, Gene Jackson here, inviting you to check out the Retro Wrestling Review, where each week I'm joined by some great co-hosts who help me review classic episodes of USWA Championship Wrestling, and right now we are doing week-by-week reviews of 1993. But we don't just do reviews, sometimes we get a chance to interview some of the people who were there and lived it, plus do watch-alongs. It's a lot of fun, so check out new episodes that drop every Wednesday at WrestleCopia.com, and to find links to everything associated to the podcast, you can go to USWApodcast.com.
Woo, mister, this is Handsome Jimmy, professional wrestler, the Boogie Woogie Man. Come on, people, my brothers and sisters, don't you dare miss this one. It's Wrestling Talk with Mayor McCall. Yes, baby, be there or be square. Oh, yeah, ha, 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 ha.
Hi, this is Mike Needham, host of the Reckless Abandon Podcast with Mike Needham. We invite you to jump on your favorite podcast platform and search for the Reckless Abandon Podcast and give us a listen. I'm sometimes joined by a part-time podcaster, part-time co-host, and full-time wife, Tiffany Nicole. We talk wrestling, we talk pop culture, we talk local events, local happenings in West Tennessee, and a ton of other stuff. But be sure to check out the Reckless Abandon Podcast. Find us on Facebook. Also, look up the Microgroup Podcasting family on Facebook and see some of our other podcasts we have out there. Until next time, make good choices and always remember, no dollar, no dice.
So that was another great episode. Hey, Wolfie, tell them where they can find you on social media.
Jimmy, they can find me in the club, bottle full of bub. I'm just kidding. They can find me on Facebook. My personal page is Warren Wolf, WOLFE. I'm on Instagram at Warren Wolf 13.
You can always find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Live Wolfie D. Here's the thing. Wolfie always has offers for his autographed photos. He has a selection of some awesome photos from throughout his career that he will autograph and personalize any way that you want him to. Just contact him either directly at his personal Facebook page or through any one of our other pages, and we'll make sure you get in contact directly with Wolfie. Get those photos, right, Wolfie?
Yeah, I've got some good stuff on there, to help with the podcast.
Folks, if you can't get out to a show to meet Wolfie D, there's nothing like that, especially for the fans of PG-13 and Wolfie D. And before we go, you can always find me, your host, Jimmy Street, at James Rock Street on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.
And hey, Jimmy, before we go real quick, I just want to add in there, from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate, first of all, the work you've done for this podcast. You have worked your butt off. Secondly, the people that are liking the page. Beyond that, even more, is the people that are listening, and we really appreciate that.
Yeah, and remember, guys, the podcast drops a new episode every Monday at noon, and our past episodes are streaming now on demand on all major podcast formats. Thanks again.
Yeah. PG-13 Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame class of 2024. Give it up. Spaceman Jones with the beat. Here we go. The 90s was ours, and we did it with pride. 15-time tag champs, what a hell of a ride. Rock and roll couldn't beat us, no Tommy and Doug. Not Smothers, dirty white boy who called themselves thugs. T is for terrible, H is for hell. Ha! PG both been locked up in county jail. The kid was real, and we were immature punks. Buddy Wayne couldn't stand us cause we didn't wear trunks. We did it our way, in and out of the ring. Bought a real rap swagger to the Memphis thing. You can hate it, you can love it, we just did our thing. Still true to the game, now we Hall of Fame. PG-13, put respect on our name. Yeah.
This has been a James Rock Street production.